Welcome back, listener, to another exciting episode. We will be discussing about Frontend Developer Roadmap. I'm your host, Huzaifa, and today we have a front-end developer expert with us. Please welcome our guest, Slobodan. He's a content creator, YouTuber, and co-founder 2M Web Studio. So kindly introduce yourself and tell us about how things are going on your end.
First of all, thank you, Asif, for inviting me on this podcast. It's a pleasure to always to just have a chat with people who are like in the industry or generally like about these technologies. So, like you already said, my name is Slobodan, but usually I go by Sloba. That's how friend called me. Also on the internet, and how I try to build my online presence is by Sloba as well. So I've been front-end developer for like almost a decade. I had projects in companies like Microsoft, for example. Also, for the last like 2 or 3 years, I've been mostly freelancing because that gives me, uh, you know, uh, ability to manage my own time whenever I want to. Maybe take a break, stuff like that. So generally, I've been working on a team as a freelancer, community leader, and for the last 3 years, I also have been content creator. So I've been creating tips, tricks, tutorials on my LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube channel as well, and I managed to gain almost 250,000 followers over there. So I've been very proud of building such a community. So that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah, that is great. And just before we start discussing about front-end developer roadmap, I
Mhm.
would just like to tell you that you have like very insightful YouTube channel. Plus, on top of that, like the way you have developed the whole your social media presence on Instagram, I have seen like very amazing post, and then website,
Thanks.
newsletter, everything. So it is just like a whole package, not just like because I know a lot of people just creating like content on YouTube. So it is like very well versed
Yeah.
YouTube strategy. So yeah, hats off to
Yeah.
you, man.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was like the idea because people don't have time for every single day to watch tutorials that are like a couple hours long. So I have these projects. When you have time, that's good. Take a full project and practice. But at the same time, during the week, maybe you are in a school or maybe you're working on a junior position. So I create these short posts where you take like a couple of minutes to read and update your knowledge. Maybe you already know this, but maybe you just need to revisit the topic or it's something new. So I try to that's the point of it. So yeah, thanks.
That is great, great, and very inspiring for me as well. And with that, my next starting question is: what initially sparked your interest in front end development, and how you get started in your journey?
Yes. So actually I first started with C# and PHP. So I started with the languages that focus more on like on maybe on full stack and also on the backend as well. But after a couple of years of that, I don't know, I just wanted to try on the front end because actually, to be honest with you, my friend was doing some freelance work and he was just building websites, and I just wanted to try. And I built first website. I tried with HTML and CSS, and I just fell in love with it. So generally I found myself more visual person, so I like photography, videography. Also, like I was always playing with Photoshop, also doing video editing. So it comes in place that I'm more like on the front end side as the development as well. So that's why I stuck to the front end, even though like right now, like the I guess the biggest paid positions are like for the full stack developers. But for me, it's like what you like to do the most, and then you can become the most successful.
Yeah, you're right. Like rather than going for like thinking like, yeah, I should. I know a lot of people like because this podcast is basically for like beginners who want to start their software journey. So what a lot of people make mistake is like they're like, okay, AI is right now like in the market. Everyone is talking about GPT. Let's start
Insane.
learning AI, and then they're like, oh, there's like something new in machine learning. There's something like crazy in NLP. So you shouldn't like do this. Like you should like decide what you like, and then like just stick to that particular domain, and then like decide like after like 2 3 years, then you can like just like
Yeah.
start working on other technologies.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you don't know until you try it, because I tried with PHP and C#, and I was coding that for a couple of years. And you just need to try something. You see, maybe you like, maybe you don't. So I see like the people are trying to follow what's like trendy, what gives you the most money. But it's okay to try, but find what suits best for you, and you're gonna enjoy your work more. That's my advice. I don't know.
Yeah, great. So, could you explain why having a roadmap is important and it is beneficial for those who are starting in this field?
Yeah, I think the roadmap is like a plan for you. So if you don't have a plan, you may lose yourself. You may start with some things, and you maybe learn the things that you're not gonna need in day to day job, or something that's not gonna bring your value as a freelancer, as a full time developer. So I think having a proper roadmap is something which is like thinking ahead, like a couple years ahead, and I want myself to have this stack. So that's why a lot of people actually are asking me, and some of my posts that are like most visited and like with the biggest engagement are with the roadmap, because people fail on actually setting up a proper roadmap, and especially nowadays as roadmap is changing every single year. So the stacks are changing, the technologies are changing, and you need to be up to date with all of this. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. So, with that, my next question is, what is the ideal roadmap for front end development for beginners?
Yeah. Yeah, well, a little bit like I said before, I don't think, to be honest, I believe it what you actually what's best for you, and at the same time you need to keep an eye on the market itself, because you may want to learn something which is like which is at the same time fun to work with, but there's no jobs for it. So you need to try to be flexible and to learn things that you enjoy and that are also like high in demand. So for me at the moment, obviously the things that are like web standards, so like HTML, CSS, those are the things that you absolutely necessarily need to learn. Then you need to learn some of the CSS preprocessors like Sass right now. But I see actually that CSS by itself is adding much more feature, and I see these preprocessors maybe even fading away in the years to come. But we will see. After that, obviously, you need to learn JavaScript if you're gonna start building dynamic websites. And after you have foundation with JavaScript, then you need to start thinking about frameworks and the libraries that can help you to build faster and to build more modern website like single page applications. So if you're going to check the market, what is the easiest to learn, what is the most in demand, that's React, absolutely React. And then at the end, when you target library like that, you need to start finding some UI libraries, because nowadays it's all about like fast development, right? So Tailwind probably would be a good library for that. Also like Material, React Material. There's a ton of these libraries, so you can choose whatever suits best for you. And at the end, I always suggest to learn a testing framework like, for example, Jest, and to make yourself as a full front end developer and to know all the aspects of the development cycle. Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because it starts with HTML, CSS, then JavaScript, and then obviously you have to learn. I also believe like few frameworks. Right now, like React is in the market, but as you said,
Yes.
it can be a case like after 2 years, like there is some other technology like Svelte is on top. Like previously, I
Yes.
used to remember like Angular was used to be like on top, and React was not like
Yes.
that much rated. But then with passage of years, like Angular is not that much popular and React goes to the top. So you have to
Yes.
keep an eye on the market.
Yeah, and not just only that, but you need to ask yourself where do you want to work. So if you were looking to work maybe for more like companies that like are stable, that they have larger, bigger teams, maybe even like going towards the Angular is better way. But I see startups are mainly going for React because like it's easier to learn, it's much lightweight, and you just work faster with it. But it's not organized in most of the time, because people who learn it fast, obviously sometimes I say there's a lot of freedom with React, but with freedom comes responsibility. With Angular you have opinionated framework, you have all the things that you yeah, there's all the things that you should do with that framework. You know how it's supposed to be done. So there's not like a ton of libraries. So basically, what I'm saying is just think about where do you want to work, and then also suit your technologies towards that, not only by the trends in the market.
Yeah, great. And my next question is, HTML and CSS are considered as the building blocks of front end development. Could you elaborate that, like why it is so important?
Yeah. Well, I think they're just necessities. So it doesn't matter if you like it or not. they're just building blocks, like you said, of the website. So there's no possible way to build a website without having them in your website. So you could potentially build a website with just HTML, but it would be totally ugly, right? Without CSS. So that's something that you absolutely there's no discussion, there's no doubt. You need to learn those things. And the good thing about them is that they are not that hard. Obviously, there are people who are very focused on to be very professional about very high aesthetics, and I've seen crazy stuff on CodePad really with CSS. So you can just make your career just with CSS. Trust me, if you just want to go that path, because nowadays you can even like create conditionals inside of CSS. So it's like programming language nowadays, and there's so many features that are releasing every single day. So just learning CSS can be scary, but the things that you need as a front-end developer, and now it's a question whether you want to be a front-end developer who is working on like presentational websites, which are far more like graphical, more appealing, right? Compared to the web applications that are more into functionality in JavaScript side. So it depends on what are you leaning for more. So, and then you would lean more on JavaScript or CSS side. Yeah.
Got it. And what do you say, like, what is like a good source from where beginners can learn HTML and CSS? Like, in my opinion, I think like Web3 schools, it is a good
Exactly.
website. It is like very easy, like very simple UI, and you can like just like,
Yes.
I also sometimes like revisit it like every now and then just to check like, yeah, how this tag works and stuff. So what's your
Yeah.
take?
Yes, I also like that website as well. But where I usually go when I want to find some information is Mozilla. They have extensive documentation, and I usually like to reach out over there. So they're like most complete documentation website that I'm referring to be honest with you. Yeah.
Okay, great, great. Front-end frameworks and libraries play a crucial role in modern web development. Could you highlight like some of the popular frameworks and explain why they streamline the whole development process?
Yeah. Well, obviously, like React is the most popular one. Angular and Vue, I think that Vue is like on the second place, but Angular, React, and Vue are like top three, the most popular ones. And the thing with them is that they give you like all these tools that you have inside of these framework that help you to build single page applications much easier. So in order to like build a single page application, which is like you're basically building a website that works as a desktop app. So that's what we are trying to do with this. And this is something revolutionary which Angular has done like more than 10 years ago, and everybody fell in love with that style of websites and applications. So that's why we have these frameworks which help you to do the routing, to do like this management in between the actual HTML and JavaScript, where in just vanilla JavaScript you would need to generate and to write all this extensive code in order to do that. So but then it comes to actually to make a decision on what do you want to build. So in my opinion, Angular is, like we discussed before, is opinionated framework. It's good with multiple team members, especially like with large teams, because it has its own structure, its own opinions, and it works best, in my opinion, to scale easier. I mean, both of these can work and scale good, but I think that it's easier to scale well with Angular. Whereas with React, it's easier to learn, but it's easier to make mistakes. At the same time, again, if you do a good foundation, good setup, it can scale well as well, and it's lightweight. It's better optimized out of the bat. So yeah, and Vue is like in the middle of these two. It's like in between library and framework. So it has good sides of Angular, and also like it's not too large at the same time. So yeah, I think these are like one of the like most popular frameworks, and the benefits that they bring to the table, and why the entire front end community is all about these frameworks. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So as you know, like right now, like responsive web design is like very important. Like whatever website you are building, like even the client, and you also know if you're building something for yourself, that it should be responsive, like because a lot of
Yes.
people, visitors are visiting that website from mobile app, but like we are
Yeah.
developing that as a developer from laptop or desktop. What's the importance of this responsive design?
Yeah. Well, I think that actually you need to ask yourself who are your users. If the majority of users are coming from mobile devices, like from phones or laptops, you definitely need to start thinking first about those users. So sometimes if you have an analytics at your at your hand, it can help you to focus on more on what kind of a design you want. Because I was working on recently on products which are not responsive at all. So, and they are being driven by their analytics. So because like they had less than 1% of mobile users, right? Because they have this complex dashboard which are usually have been worked from desktop. So it's very important because majority of the websites obviously are being still visited from mobile phones. And I visit like daily news stuff like that, and the sports scores always from my phone. So that's why everything like optimized for mobile devices is crucial. But again, it depends uh, on your product and analytics. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Like you have to first understand, like because I have also read like there is like a mobile first strategy as well when you are building website.
Yes.
Like as you
Hmm.
know, as you told us about like a great example of a dashboard. Like that website like has complex dashboards. You cannot
Yeah.
visualize that or like play with it from mobile app. So
Yeah.
this thing, like it is like 100% made for the desktop or laptops. But like if you have something, a normal website or a blogging website, then you can expect like 80-90% of visitors are visiting that from mobile app.
Yes. And at
uh,
the same time, like I seen some platforms like YouTube or I don't know, they have applications like from obviously for mobile phones, but you have limited functionalities compared to the actual website when you go to the desktop. And the reason for that is just you have less screen real estate, and you can do some basic stuff if you need to maybe edit something quickly like text or description. But if you want to fully have all the functionalities, then you need to go to a desktop. So that's like a good solution as well. If you have something complex, just to make some smaller version with less features. Yeah.
you're right. And as you know, like when developer progress in their roadmap and they learn the HTML, CSS, and the basic of all the frameworks, then they encounter like different issues like related to optimization, related to testing and performance, like loading the website faster. So what can you tell us about that? Like how they should like tackle all these problems?
Yeah. Well, this all depends on the actual, use case and whether they are more like in the presentational websites projects or like actually working on some data-driven web applications. But when it comes to like these presentational websites, generally that's like optimizing the icons to be like font icons, getting some images reduced or even changing image format so that is more like compliant to Google requirements. You know, uh, so basically, all the things that you're doing is try to reduce the memory footprint on your website. So to make it much, much, much faster, and especially like on mobile devices, because oftentimes you have limited like network speed. Maybe you're somewhere in the woods or who knows where, and you want to keep the memory footprint as low as possible, so that they don't need to like download things that are not necessary for them. And especially like if the mobile screen is like I don't know 10 inches or however is the size of that device, you want to make sure that it's only loading the stuff that is on screen. You don't want to load like something that is not being visible. So there are optimization techniques involved in depending on the use case. And also like in the data driven applications, like something that is like web application like Gmail, I see people oftentimes struggle with like you said with performances, but that's much harder to tackle and to find the bottleneck on your website. Sometimes it's just pure like logic issues. Sometimes people don't apply the like best practices. They have like thousands for loops and they just make their application crash, or like they don't clean up their subscriptions. And you notice like when you're using the application like for 5 or 10 minutes, it just gets slower and slower and slower, and once you like reload the application, it gets back to the normal. So these are like all signs of bad practices at work. So yeah, it depends on the actual use case. That's my final answer, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And in terms of performance, like what do you suggest? Like what people can add or like look into? What are the resources they
Yeah.
can look into to learn about performance?
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
Not about performance, about the security.
Yeah, well, usually what I do is because, as you mentioned at the beginning, I have a web development agency as well. And what we usually do when we are building a website for somebody, we want to run a couple of checks. So we have accessibility checker website, and we also have like a we3 school also has like their checker to make sure that HTML and CSS are valid. But when it comes to the speed, we run it through Google Speed Test, and there you have all the recommendations, basically how you can improve your website and just to be sure that you're covering all the things that are necessary. For example, for my personal website as well, I try to keep the scores like to 100% so that it's fast, optimized, and that people have great user experience. So I think that going to Google Speed Test is something that the best thing that you can do for your website, and it's like it's objective. So it's not like I'm wondering if I applied all the things that I'm supposed to.
Okay, great, great.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of like users are visiting, like 90% plus are visiting from Google. So it is best like to let Google test your website and give you
Yes.
suggestions, then you can like optimize it. So
Exactly. Yeah.
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 So keeping up with like the latest trends and technologies, as you know, like every other day there is some new plugins or new technology coming up in the market. So how do you recommend like developers to stay update and so that they do not miss out on anything?
Yeah. Well, well, I to be honest with you, I think that you shouldn't be following everything what's like uh at like every single day because to be honest with you, it can be too overwhelming. Some of the things that like majority of things that are coming our way are just gonna fade away. And I think that you should be waiting a little bit to things to become a little bit more stable, and that you know that they're gonna be there for a while. So you're not wasting your time into learning new library, new technology, new framework, and it's just gonna be there. So, but if you want to stay up to date, like I'm trying to do, because I'm trying, what I'm actually doing on my social media is I'm just curating content. So I have these sources, which I'm basically trying to filter out and find what is interesting and pass that to the people who are following me. So go find newsletters that you find interesting, like front end focus. Then go find websites that focus on like CSS, JavaScript, React, or all the technologies that you try to follow. And it takes only like a couple of Google searches to find that. So newsletter, you can find YouTube channels, you can find influencers like myself on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and they will basically help you to stay up to date. And you also have forums and like RSS feeds as well, who actually gather all the blog posts from different industries, different technologies, and they help you just to go stay up to date with all the things that are changing in the market and industry. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So, in your experience, what are some of the common challenges like the front end developer face, and how they can overcome these challenges? Like when they are
Yeah.
working, like in the start of your career, you can also like give a case study, like because when you're starting in anything, like for example, in my case, I am more into cloud and backend and solution architect thing. So when I
Yeah.
was initially doing stuff, like I was getting stuck at a lot of places. So then, like I
Yeah.
did courses and stuff. So, what's your experience in the front
Yeah.
end roadmap?
Yeah, I think it can be a very challenging, especially like you said, when you're at the beginning and you get to a project and designer, draws up something crazy, and you're just wondering how can I pull off this, So I think that's like the biggest challenge when you have like somebody who's very creative, but at the same time, he doesn't pay too much attention on what can be done. Obviously, almost everything can be done. It's just a matter of when it comes, for example, to animations, how optimized it can it be. So if you're going to have this crazy animation in your website, you need to understand that it's going to be heavy on that website and it's going to take time to load and to render. So from my own personal experience is just trying to educate yourself as much as you can and give yourself time to absorb all the things that you're learning and give yourself experience. So try building as many projects as you can, and like we said at the beginning, if you're doing what you like, even if when you don't have a project, you're going to work on your personal project because that's something that interests you. And with these projects, you're going to build experience and you're going to be more confident with the things that come on your next like a job, or whether it's like freelancing project, whatever it is. So I think just by that, you can give yourself the best chances to be successful, to be more confident, and to struggle the least. But at the end, we all struggle. It's part of the job, and we just try to struggle the least we can. So yeah.
Right. Because I also agree, because like I also recommend all the guys who are starting in like back end or front end
Yeah.
that in the start, like create dummy projects. Like you can watch on YouTube, there are like a lot
Yeah.
of videos, and very like extensive videos, like 1 hour, 2 hour long, 5 hour long, and making
Yeah.
their a whole application. You can just like watch it, pause it, code it, then like play it.
Yeah.
And then, like at that time, because when you're working, because it is like a test project, so there's no client. So if you get stuck at something, you're not like in pressure. And then like
Yes.
when you learn and then go into a market, you are doing a job or like running your own agency, even then you will face like a lot of problems. And I
Yes.
say to a lot of people that this development field is all about like patience, because sometimes like
Yeah.
you're stuck in a particular problem for like hours, and then you get to know like the solution was like very simple. It is like
Yeah.
very patient, I
Yeah.
think, in this field.
Yeah, you brought a great point there. So it's not only about like patient, being patient, but at the same time, it's just like I see it like as a fishing. So there's like a saying that don't give a man like a fish, but teach him how to fish. So it's the same thing with programming, at least for me. So I'm not trying to for every single library or language that you're working with. I'm just trying to learn the concept. And once you understand that, and once you have like some number of projects under your belt or website or whatever you're doing, you're going to see the patterns, how things are being done. And then once you understand the technologies around yourself, it doesn't matter if you come to a project and there's new technology, you're not going to be scared because you know how things work generally. And it's going to be very easy for you to pick up new technology, new skill, to build a new feature. And it's going to be much easier once you learn how these things work generally. Yeah.
Yeah, great points. So, as you know, like the front end development is linked with design, and how important is it is like for front end developers to have basic understanding of design, like how the designs are created and what is like the thought behind them. So, what's your take on that?
Yeah, well, I think it's very important because as a front-end developer, you're working on building the user interface for the visitors and the people who are going to use the application itself. So it's very important to understand what are the requirements of the feature that you're building of the website. And obviously, as a front-end developers, we are not designers. Some people are doing both, like designing and web development. But for me, these two are like totally different things, right? And I just think that you need to understand what is the user experience, and that needs to be top notch for users. So it needs to be, for in my opinion, as simple as possible. Don't overcomplicate things. And also, like website needs to have clear call to action. So if you want to do something, it should be simple and straightforward to do that on your website. When users start thinking and when he has like issues finding the features that he needs, it's a good sign of bad design and bad user interface. So just thinking about from the user perspective, try to use it and try to put yourself in a position of somebody who's using that. That's like the best starting point to understand what this design is for. I mean, obviously there are aesthetics and there's something that you want to be able to look nice, but you still need to be to consider like what is the actual use of it. If it's pretty but it's not useful, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Because nowadays, like I think like for past 2 3 years, there is this thing. Like previously, we used to have like websites which are like very extensive website, like have a lot of pages. But now there's a concept of like sort of sales funnel. There are one page
Yeah.
websites, it is like very good, like have exceptional design, and
Yeah.
file friendly. If you open on web, it is also looking good. They have like few videos of people testimonials, and then they have like a lot of CTAs. If you look at them closely, they will have a CTA on top, then you scroll, then they also
Mm.
have here to buy. In the bottom, they will have like 3 4 CTA in just like
Yeah.
one page. And
Yeah.
this thing that beginners and all the people need to understand, because they are like giving you that call to action on every scroll. So
Yeah.
it's like you scroll down, so you go up and then click on buy now button. There is a
Yeah.
buy button in that section as well.
Yeah.
So I think like for front end developers, like it is very important that you first like learn from videos or from small courses about UX as well, how user
Yes.
experience work. Where should we add like a drop down, or like or we should have scroll, we should add scroll, or we should add a button, like what is more appropriate in this particular situation. So yeah, I think you guys, like everybody need to like understand the UX and the design aspect. And it's not mandatory, as you mentioned, that the front end dev is like designing himself, but it is important that he
Yeah.
understand that and then like convert the whole HTML and makes a website.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're not like a dummy when somebody's creating a design, and when you're part of that team, you raise a discussion, you bring a design. So you need to understand what is this about, and to give suggestions on how it can be improved, and especially from a perspective of a developer who knows what it takes to develop it. You need to give your opinion and maybe suggest some better solutions. So, in my opinion, if you have that knowledge and you try, and you just need to try to understand, the user and what he needs. And if you do that, you're going to be in a good position to put yourself as a professional, as somebody who understands the user experience, and at the same time is trying to deliver the best for the actual product. You know.
Yeah, great. So as you know, like front end development is like constantly evolving. Are there any emerging trends that you see in the technology and in the library side that you think like in the coming years will like dominate the market, and like how developers can prepare themselves for all the latest emerging trends?
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I'm not sure. I have this very interesting technology that I started working recently on my personal projects, but I'm not sure it's gonna dominate the market because React is dominating the market for quite some time, and it has like big like company that stands behind it. So I think it's gonna be a couple more years at least on the top. But the Quick framework, which I had the chance to work like a couple of weeks ago, and I still actually haven't finished that project yet. So this is the framework which was built from a previous, ex Angular, ex Google developer who built Angular, among others. And basically, what it does, it removes the hydration from single page applications, which means that it doesn't matter how big your application is. Their bundle size is always 1 kilobyte, around 1 kilobyte, which basically brings your speed of your website or application lightning fast. So it instant like this. And basically, what they're doing, they're just downloading the code in the background for JavaScript, and they're just executing at the time. And you, for example, click on a button, or maybe you do a scroll or whatever you're doing. They're executing the code at this time when you're making an action. So it's something that none of this framework is doing. So we have seen a lot of frameworks or libraries that are just like different coding syntax, in a nutshell. But this is totally different approach. And for example, if I were to build a website right now, I would use Quick for that, because you know all the like performances and that you can test from, for example, Google speed test, are going to be on top out of the box. So without any optimization, they're going to be on top. So it's, for me, it's crazy, but I'm not sure if it's going to be like a next big thing, because there's not like a big company behind it. There's not like Google, Amazon, Facebook who's like behind of this technology. So because as we know, these things matter. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. But like, yeah, I also didn't knew about this, but like, it seems to be like very interesting because like, I have also faced this, like, because when Angular, like if you have like a big project, like there's the build size is, like 70, 80, or like 200 MB, 300 MB, like it can increase. And having like a very small like build size, and then like application is like very fast, like out of the box. So that is like you don't have to actually like work on optimization. So that is
No, no. I mean, with Angular and React, what people are trying to do is just to load the parts of the application that you need. So you have like lazy loading, route-based loading, modules. So they're trying to reduce the bundle size. But at the same time, I mean, it's still growing, because you're using the services and those shared modules, and it's still growing. With Quick, it's always like it doesn't matter how much it grows, because they're not downloading the whole thing. They're just downloading the necessary thing. I mean, basically, it's like if you have coded like in Next.js, or people who coded, they know there's server-side rendering frameworks, and they start rendering on the server side, and they inject all the necessary information inside of the HTML. And I mean, they're not just, because all of these other frameworks are just duplicating re-rendering on the client as well, and they're not doing that because they're just injecting these weird attributes in the HTML. They're using that information to execute the right pieces of the JavaScript. It's a little bit too complex. I went into too much into detail, but trust me, maybe you're gonna hear about it in the future weeks, months, and the years. Who knows?
No, no, it is great because I'm also like interested about this new technology because like I used to like work in front end nowadays as well. Like I'm working with front end guys, sometimes with back end guys. So like hearing about like this technology like that is like so quick, it is like always nice. And because I thought like initially like if like performance and SEO this is your concern, then the next framework is the right choice because it do server side rendering. Then in SEO it is also good like for
Yes.
beginners, because the single page application, like if you go on a particular route, it is not a page. But in Google and all that, like they consider that particular route as a page. So it does not have the right like title, meta description, the image and everything. So in these SPAs, you sometimes like have problems like optimizing them for like Google and get like a good SEO score. So for that, like Next.js is like a good option. In Angular, I think Angular Universal. But like having like but these things are changing, I would say. Like but I in my recommendation, like if SEO is the main concern, then React Next framework is like the best option.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Next.js is probably. I mean, even like React documentation, their team is recommending to go with Next.js. So it's basically React with server side rendering. So why not? Yeah.
And finally, like, can you share any personal experience from your own front end journey? Like, are there any particular projects and challenges that you have done and they shaped your whole perspective? And then you become like such a good developer and you are doing like amazing stuff now.
Well, I don't think that there's a single thing that I would like mention that changed entirely my career path. I think that having as many projects as I had shaped me as a developer, because every single project brings something new to my knowledge. And even though it doesn't matter how many years of experience you have, with every new project you're going to come up with the things and with the challenges that you haven't faced before. With years, that's less and less, but still at the same time, new, like we discussed, new technologies are emerging, so you need constantly to learn new things. So I think that's like the biggest challenge, to learn always something new. But if you love what I do, and again we are getting back to the beginning of this discussion, if you're doing what you like, it's not going to be hard for you. But for me, like one of the first, like most like challenging projects that I had when I was building the smart goggles for professional swimmers, basically. So we have smartwatches, smartphones, now everything's smart, like smart cameras. And I was building a smart goggles for swimmers, and basically they had like a screen on their goggles when they are swimming, and they can see like different metrics like velocity, speed, the location if they are swimming in a sea, open sea, these kind of things, and type of strokes that they're having. And when they're finished with their swimming, they basically go and connect their smart goggles with their application, and they transfer this data, which you can see on your mobile application. You have different dashboards and all of that. For me, it was challenging first to build application. I was using like React Native technology, and then like React Native at the time wasn't like, it wasn't developed that much, and there was not many libraries that can help you with the Bluetooth to send the data from actual hardware to this application. So for me, it was challenging to come to the low level language features that you need to work with, and also like to extend the current library which was in place, like Polydea, which had only like fraction of features that we needed, but to work with their team to extend this library, to add the features that we need in order to pair these devices to send the data. And for me, it was like great experience. I learned a lot, and I saw that you can do pretty much anything if you have like the passion, if you try to like learn the things and you just have time for it. So yeah, I would say that that was like one of my like most noted project that I have. It didn't have like big impact, like it had like 10 millions of users, but for me that's like a cool thing that you can work. And also like the company said like they actually like chip, which was like a pre-production hardware, and I actually had to and it had like one button, so I had like to click on this button, and then I was clicking on my application as well. So it was like very interesting project for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it also sound very interesting. So yeah,
Yeah.
Good to know about like your experience. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise and shedding light on the front end developer roadmap. And I greatly appreciate your time and insights.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure, man.
And that brings us to end of another exciting episode. I hope like the viewers like this discussion and they can benefit from it. And for beginners who do not know from where to start, they can also learn from this, like how they can go like start by learning HTML, CSS, then JavaScript, then different frameworks. Then you can focus on like optimization and that part of the front end journey. So yeah, I think it is a good discussion. And until next episode, like to all the viewers, have a nice day and keep striving.